Hello, everyone. Welcome to this Ephesoft webinar all about the future of capture, really taking a look at breakthrough extraction accuracy in cursive handwriting and invoice processing. And my name is Darren Pendergraft. I'm the VP of Product Marketing here at Ephesoft, and it is my pleasure to welcome you today. With me on the webinar, I've got two experts that are going to help me present some of the new features in Ephesoft Transact that are really going to illustrate that next generation that I mentioned. So first up with me is Mr. Walter Lee. Walter is our Transact product owner. And also we have today Mr. John Andel, who's our solution engineering manager. So guys, thank you so much for being with me.
Absolutely. Thanks, Darren.
Thanks for having us.
All right, so let's get going. The way we're going to do this presentation, I'm going to get us started. I'm going to do a little bit of an overview so everybody can sort of understand how it is we're going to be able to deliver some of the functionality. I'm then going to ask Walter to come into the presentation and walk through kind of some of the thinking, the use cases, some of the background behind each of these two major sets of functionality, Handwriting Recognition Plus and the AI Table Rule Builder. So Walter's going to walk us through these major bits of functionality, and then John's going to come in and do live demonstrations. So it's one thing to kind of hear it from product management, you know, what we're up to and how the features work. It's quite another thing to see it live, and John's got some great demos lined up for you. Now, in Zoom, there's a Q&A function. So we as speakers, we'll try to keep an eye on the Q&A. We'll try to handle questions as they come up. I want to encourage you to use the Q&A function to submit your questions to us. And we will have some time at the end of the presentation where we'll answer as many questions as possible. If we don't get to your question, we'll be sure to have our team follow up via email to make sure that you get all of your questions answered as quickly as possible. So let's get started. All right, so functionality that we're delivering and we're going to walk you through today was in the latest Ephesoft Transact release. The release version is 2020.1.05. This is now generally available. It came out July 13th. Some of you may have seen the press release that went out talking about some of these features. Pretty high level in the press release, but it'll kind of give you a taste of what we're going to do for you today. Now, for those of you who may be seeing this for the first time, John has actually gone through the trouble of recording some short demonstration videos on this new functionality, and those are out on the ephesoft.com website. So I did want to make sure that I mentioned to you, if you see something that's really interesting today, you want to investigate a little bit more about this functionality, definitely go out to our website and check it out. On the Transact page and on the demo page, there's some videos that like walk through in detail each of these new functions. Now, I did want to also mention to the audience, I know we may have some existing customers, we have some partners, we may actually have some prospects on the call today. We are expecting another version of Transact out probably very late this year. Probably November, December timeline. So there will be another version of Transact coming out this year. And as we get closer to that release, we'll have more details for you then. But let's talk about this current release and talk really about the major new functionality. So two big major features in this release. The first one's called Handwriting Recognition Plus. Now, I've got kind of an almost unbelievable statistic here. Ephesoft Transact has been really good at typewritten, machine printed documents and forms and all that kind of stuff. But when it comes to handwriting, it's been really dependent on some of the conditions, the quality of the document. There have been a lot of things that could affect the quality of being able to extract text off of a handwritten document. Well, I think what you're going to see today is a huge leap forward. I think you're going to agree with me that this is next generation handwriting recognition. I've got a statistic here. This is probably the best you'll see. It's not perfect, but in some testing that we've done, we did see up to 88% handwritten character recognition in some of our testing. So it's amazing. You're going to see it. Walter's going to walk you through it, and then John's going to show you a demonstration on some real business documents. It's amazing how well this works. I think as I've talked to beta customers and other customers that have tried this out, they haven't really thought about capturing handwritten information off documents because just the state of the industry has never been that good as far as accuracy. I think that's going to change. I think you're really going to be surprised. Now, the second bit of functionality is called the AI for artificial intelligence table rule builder. So if you're familiar with Transact, Transact uses machine learning to recognize document types, and then we use a rule-based approach to actually extract the data off of those business documents. And so what you want to extract off the document really depends on you and your use case. And typically what we will do is we will work with customers or prospects to set up these rules so that customers get the data off the documents that they want. Well, we've actually developed some technology using some AI libraries where it makes it very, very easy to build these rules. Especially when you're looking at things like tables that have line items. I mean, building those rules can take a while. The AI table rule builder is just going to quantum leap forward. You're going to be really surprised how easy it is to set up these tables and build these rules to extract the invoice data off of them. Don't take it from me. Walter's going to walk you through some of the particulars, and then John's going to show it to you live. I'll come back and talk a little bit about some of the bug fixes, but in addition to these two major sets of functionality, we have also addressed some issues and upgraded some internal components. So having said all of that, having set the stage, I would like to invite Mr. Walter Lee now to take over and walk through Handwriting Recognition Plus. So Walter, over to you.
Great, thanks Darren for the introduction. So as Darren said, my name is Walter Lee. I am the Transact product owner. And so for 2021, our team has been focusing on a premium handwriting extraction solution. And we're excited to bring this out to the market in our latest release that came out in July. So let's go over the what, why, how, and whom we developed this feature for. First, the what. What's the problem? Customers need a better solution to extract handwritten data. While document capture automation has mostly concentrated around documents with machine print, recent advances in machine learning OCR algorithms has expanded the demand for identifying the handwritten portions of documents, and we're seeing it regularly with new opportunities across industries. So our team explored the best-in-class technologies for handwritten extraction, and we've selected Google Cloud Vision to be part of our technology stack for Cloud Hyperextender. We found that it has 10 times better handwritten extraction accuracy than conventional OCR engines. And, some of the first and leading handwritten solutions out in the market, they forced users to send snippets for a specific field to a handwriting OCR engine. And as you can imagine, this could be very costly with forms with a lot of handwritten data on them, where each call to the handwriting OCR engine incurred a cost charged back to the user. It also was costly in performance. If you had 20 fields to extract on a single page, you would have to make 20 calls for each snippet to send to the external OCR engine sitting in the cloud. So Cloud Hyperextender solves both of these issues by performing whole page OCR versus a snippet-based approach. And it provides quicker performance, flexible usage with Transact extraction techniques that we already have, and controls costs much better than the other premium offerings on the market. And because it's Google, it has greater scalability potential across multiple languages. Next slide, please. Now, let me go over how we're integrating Google Cloud Vision and quickly go over how our premium Cloud Hyperextender service works with our Transact product. But before I do so, let me distinguish between our two cloud offerings. We offer two cloud solutions as a product. First, we offer Transact Cloud, where we host Transact and its infrastructure, and we give you Transact as a service. Second, we offer the supplemental premium cloud hyperextender service, which works alongside Transact, whether you bring up Transact yourself or you use Transact Cloud. In either Transact or Transact Cloud, a typical workflow is composed of several stages indicated in this diagram in blue. We start with capture of the documents on the left-hand side, move to the second stage, which involves transforming the captured documents into various assets and OCRing the content. Then we move to classification, extraction of targeted data, and finally to export. In 2019, the team wanted to speed up the second stage in blue, and that was the most computationally expensive, and we released Cloud Hyperextender Service. There's a premium add-on and replaced several on-prem plugins by sending the documents to the cloud for quicker processing. And it did a great job with increasing performance, but performance wasn't enough. And that's why in 2021, we decided to add handprint extraction to the service to increase its reach and impact. And besides that, the best handwritten OCR engines are only offered in the cloud. And with our new consumption pricing this year, every bundle that we offer includes Cloud Hyperextender so that customers can easily try the feature. Now, if you look at the SHE stages in green, we have two image processing stages and an OCR stage. We've been focusing our efforts at the OCR stage, and this is where we've replaced our in-cloud OCR engine, specifically with Google Cloud Vision, to extract not only machine print as we had before, but also various forms of handprint and cursive. And so this diagram shows a hybrid workflow that performs some of the automation processes on-prem and others in the cloud. Next slide, please. So here's a sampling of results for a document in the first column, comparing conventional OCR engine results in the second to Cloud Hyperextender results in the third. As you compare the columns, the extraction gets more difficult, going from top to bottom. We have baseline testing that we've performed across our OCR engines and found that we get great results for those really tough cursive handwriting examples. And you can see that when you compare that section that is highlighted in red with the rectangle around it. We find that we get more than 10 times improvement for HWR character match accuracy, and the time operators spend correcting handwritten fields is reduced from 90% to 10%. And in the table, we see for simple handprint that we go from a conventional OCR engine character match accuracy of 45% to SHE's accuracy of 85%. And then for the much harder, complex handprint and cursive typewriting, we go from a character match accuracy of 2% with the conventional OCR engine to an accuracy of 88%. So this is what we're super excited about, since this opens up a huge opportunity to apply document capture automation to many more use cases and industries. Back to you, Darren.
Excellent. All right. So I think everyone on the webinar would agree that 2% is not good enough to really use in many business cases, right? So any that I can think of, 2% is just not going to work. So with up to 88% accuracy, I think now this is going to really open up some new use cases. So I put this slide in because I think people are going to want to know how much this costs. Now, Walter snuck in a little bit of some insight into our bundles. That's the second bullet. But let me start by saying, in addition to your Ephesoft Transact license, right? You're licensed Ephesoft Transact installation. You got that up and running. It's working fine. It's great. If you want to use Cloud Hyperextender to extract handwriting and handwriting from documents, we are going to charge 2.5 cents per whole page, right? So not snippet, it's per whole page, per whole image, right? So you can see this top one, and I got to apologize, I couldn't think of a very clever way to put all of the currency support onto this slide, so I put US dollars. But for 200,000 handwritten images, the price is 5,000 US dollars, right? That's about 2.5 cents a page. And we have had customers ask us for volume discounts. They're saying, wow, with this kind of accuracy, what if I want to do 1 million images or 2 million or 10 million images? We would love to help you with that kind of a project. And we have thought about that. And so the price drops to 2 cents per page if you're doing up to 2 million or above 2 million images. So that's the pricing. If you would like a real price quote, if you would like someone to talk to you about your particular use case, I've got my team available for you. Just make sure you either chat us a question or send us a message or get in touch with the partner that you've been working with if you'd like to learn more about pricing, okay? Now, Walter did mention for those customers that have bought a packaged bundle. So we have packages which include training and professional services and license. It includes multiple things. We have a standard professional and enterprise package. Included in those packages for professional and enterprise are Cloud Hyperextender handwriting extraction images. So if you bought a professional package from Ephesoft, you get 200,000 handwritten extraction images at no additional fee. That's built into the price of that package. Similarly, for enterprise, you get 400,000 handwritten images you can process with that package. So really, if you've already got a package, really it makes a lot of business sense for you to check this out, try this on some of your documents and see if it's going to work for you. Now, the product team has thought about what if you don't have a package? What if you've never really thought about trying to do handwriting extraction, but this is interesting and you may want to try it? Well, I'm glad you're thinking that. There is a trial built into our Cloud Hyperextender add-on that allows you to process up to 1,000 images per month. So if you just want to try this out and you're a current licensed Ephesoft Transact user, we can absolutely help you. You can absolutely try this at no additional fee and up to 1,000 images per month to do some testing to see if it's going to work for you. Then if we decide to move forward, we have plenty of pricing options available for you. So I just wanted to let you know that we have thought about the pricing. We do have some volume discounts that we can talk to you about, and there are some trial images available if this is at all interesting to you. Okay, so that's all about Handwriting Recognition Plus. I want to change the conversation a little bit. I want to now transition over to the second major category of functionality, what we're calling the AI table rule builder. And I'm going to ask Walter to come back and walk us through the thinking behind that and a little bit more of an explanation about how it works.
Great, thanks again, Darren. So let's talk about the AI table rule builder, why we decided to build this feature, and what are the benefits that this is going to provide. So as it stands, Transact has many powerful table extraction capabilities, but building the rules to configure table extraction can take some time, and it requires a certain skill level. And typically, what that means is when you are required to build a new table, for example, an accounts payable scenario, maybe when you're onboarding a new vendor and there's a new format that you need to support, that would mean you would need to rely on the batch class administrator so that they can basically create that rule. And then they would become the bottleneck in the process, and that would slow down the productivity. So what we decided to do with the AI table rule builder was to add the idea of uptraining into the hands of the operator and allow them to assist in building these rules. Typically, there are more operators and batch class administrators in an organization, and this type of crowdsourcing would allow quick creation of these rules for reuse. Now, clearly, an operator isn't going to have the same level of skills as a batch class administrator, and it wouldn't be practical to train operators in how to build these rules, to use complex regular expressions, or to understand the nuances involved in building a table in the conventional sense. So what we decided to do was to leverage the artificial intelligence engine that we built in Symantec to automatically recognize and extract table data, and then to use this data to reverse engineer and to build on the fly table extraction rules. And for the operator to validate that, that's done what they expected it to do. And then for us to populate the batch class with that updated rule. Now, one of the other issues with building rules today in Transact is when you build a rule, there's always a risk that potentially the rule you're building may have a negative effect on another table rule that's been built for another vendor table. And so the other thing that we looked at when we were looking at building this was, how do we get around that challenge? How do we reduce that regression effort to ensure our previous table rules aren't affected? How do we bring operators into helping create these rules without inadvertently causing problems for those other vendor rules? So along with the table rule builder, we introduced a couple of changes to our standard table rules within Ephesoft Transact. And one of the key changes is the introduction of a table rule filter. And so now we offer the ability within 2020.1.05, the ability to provide a filter against a table rule and have that filter only fire for a rule based on a value in a field. So in an accounts payable use case, that may be a vendor ID or a vendor zip code, and that would indicate to Transact that it should only consider that rule for execution when it encounters that value. And a couple of things to note for Transact and the AI table rule builder. We wanted to look toward the future, and so we wanted to move towards this concept where we wanted to give the choice of this feature to the integrator, that we would be delivering this feature in a componentized way. And what that means is if you would like the AI table rule builder, then you can go and take it. And if you don't want it, then you don't have to. It's your choice. And that allows us to more rapidly develop, improve the table rule builder without having to wait for another major release of Transact. And so our intention is to release this. We're going to be monitoring for feedback from the field. We're going to be looking for that early feedback, take some of that feedback and put it back into the table rule builder and release more frequent updates. Along those lines, it's worth bearing in mind that this initial release will have heavily tested around simple table structures. We've taken single use case and focused our testing so we could get this out as quickly as possible and allow our customers to get the benefit as early as possible. So we took a case of accounts payable, and a lot of our testing is around invoices. Now, that doesn't mean that this won't work for other document types, because as you know, a table can look like a table compared to other tables. But all our testing has been heavily focused on invoices. And so what we're saying with this initial release is that our recommendation is that if you are processing invoices and you have a use case with tables, then heavily think about the use of this feature. And if you have other use cases that have tables, this feature might work for you, but you might want to do a little more internal testing on how you can use it to reduce table creation in general for your batch class admins, instead of fully letting operators be part of the process. Okay, So that's a little bit of what the problem was and how we approached solving the problem. Next slide, please. So in this slide, I'm going to talk about the 4 modes we've included in this table rule builder. The first mode that we have is that we expect to be the most commonly used, and we're calling that the automatic mode. This is going to be the default path for an operator, the happy path. The flow would be in that the operator would get a document in the validate module of Transact. They would see there's no table data. They would launch the AI table rule builder. They would follow the instructions to effectively tell the rule builder where the table is on the document. And then they would go ahead, click the next button. Then the next button would then use the artificial intelligence library. The artificial intelligence library would go ahead and find the data. And then it would create the constructs for the table. It would build the rules dynamically. And then it will present for you the results for that rule. Assuming those results look good, all the operator has to do is go ahead and click next, click on finish, and then they will have that data populated in the document. And they will have those rules populated into the batch class in the backend with the filter ID that I mentioned earlier. Now we do recognize, however, the early release that we're not going to get it right every time. The AI is going to need some enhancements. We're going to need to develop that further. So we've included a second mode called the standard mode. And this really is a sort of a wizard-driven approach to allowing the operator to answer simple, human understandable questions. We try to stay away from technical language. We're asking the operator simple questions to try and give us some hints about where we might find the data in this table and other attributes. We'll then have a second go, and we'll try and execute the rule again. And hopefully, by that point, we'll have done a better job. We'll then present the operator the results, and the operator at that point can save the rule if they want. Again, it will update the batch instance with the table data. It'll populate the batch class with the new rules it created. And that's the sort of the second happy path. And then, if for some reason we're still not able to get it right, perhaps there's some serious OCR quality issues with the document. In that case, we recognize we didn't want to put the operator through that process and then have them go and manually type the data in any way. So we have this manual mode. And the intention of the manual mode is that the operator can take our best guess. They can make changes they need for that batch instance using the easier to use UI. They can push it through and continue on with their day. And hopefully the next time a document comes through the process, we might get better quality OCR, and then we might be able to follow one of the other happy paths. And then lastly, the final mode that I wanted to talk to you about, we've included where we wanted to add some features of value for those power users and those batch class administrators, is an advanced mode. And advanced mode allows you to still use your traditional regular expressions, but to do that in a much more rapid way than you can do today with the existing Transact interface. So the existing Transact interface is still there. It still provides all the power that it did before, but we've added a few features in the advanced mode so you can rapidly build tables when you're building a batch class or amending that batch class. And that should keep those power users happy as well. They will be able to live between the AI table rule builder and the legacy rule builder for those complex use cases, and will really be able to save a lot of time in doing so. And that's a quick overview of what we've built so far and how we approached it. Back to you, Darren.
Great. Thank you, Walter. Appreciate that. So happy path, automatic, flows right through. We get it right, but we realized that there could be some complexity. And so you could shift in these other modes. Walter, thank you so much. How much does this cost? No additional fee. That's the good news today, right? No additional fee for this advanced artificial intelligence rule builder. We've had a little bit of back and forth internal, like how much faster, how much easier is it to set up an invoice with tables? And, you know, it could be different depending on how experienced the person is actually doing it. You're going to see John set up some rules and he's going to walk you all through it. It'll take minutes. It really goes very quickly. So we believe that this is going to be an amazing bit of functionality. We believe it's going to allow our consulting partners to be able to do a lot more invoices set up in the same consulting time. We believe it's going to allow end users to be able to do some basic things themselves. We think it's going to be a great value all the way around. So really excited to just announce this as being built into the product and available to everyone with an Ephesoft Transact license. Okay, one short slide, right? So we've got handwriting recognition now, being able to extract handwriting information off of business documents. We've got table setup being dramatically accelerated, but we've also addressed over 30 bugs in the product. We've updated internal components so that there's better performance, better workflow, and better response to the jobs and the processing you're doing. So I'm not going to go into this in detail. If you're an existing customer or partner, you're waiting for something, reach out to your contact, your Ephesoft contact, and we can like walk you through exactly which issues were addressed in this release. So new functionality, bugs addressed, and now that brings us to what I think is probably one of the more interesting aspects of today's presentation, and that is I'm going to invite Mr. John Andel to actually give us a look at some of this new functionality. So with that, John, I'm going to pause the presentation here and turn it over to you.
Great, thanks, Darren. I'm excited. All right. Great, so let's get right in and take a look. Really excited to show everyone these new features. So got a few different batches prepared for this demonstration. So I'm going to jump right into the handwriting. These are some documents that I've already processed, and you'll notice that it's a nice mix of different documents, from something like an account change form. We've got some construction documents. We've got some shipping docs, patient admissions, and then we'll end with a pretty interesting example down here. So here you can see really the results. Again, I've forced these documents to stop in the validation step, just so you can get a chance to look at the accuracy and the results that you're seeing from these handwritten elements. So I'll tab through here. So all of the same features that you're used to, including how you set up these rules, everything remains exactly the same. Now we just support handwriting with a very high degree of accuracy, as you can see here. So I'll tab through here. Also things like signature checks, OMR for checkboxes, that all remains the same as well. So I put this notes field here. I like to use this just to demonstrate how we can also leverage our lasso or our point and click to target some different data elements that may not have been picked up the first time that we've tried to extract data. So you can see here that it's very easy to just come in here and just click on these different data elements now. All right, so moving down, I'll step through each of these so you can get a sense of what these different extraction results look like. So here's a construction document. This is a much smaller constrained area for these header fields that we're picking up, but you can see that it absolutely nailed it. It got everything absolutely correct here. On this one, I put a second tab with some empty fields that I did not set up any extraction for. So if we switch over to the second page, again, just to reiterate how easy it is to do some manual indexing if need be, we can just click into each of these fields. And then in a matter of seconds, we're able to index all of this information that appears on the second page.
And John, that data could have been automatically extracted, right? You're just showing the audience how easy it is if you want to pick something up that wasn't in the initial extraction rule set. Is that correct?
Exactly right. Yep. So, this, just to clarify, this functionality of being able to point and click and lasso, that is not new. That's been in the product for years. But again, we've never really had the accuracy to go after any handwritten elements in this approach. So now we can. So that's really what I wanted to highlight there. So if we jump over to this pick list, you can see that we got our pack date correct. However, our packed by, this name was flagged. So this came in obviously with a lower confidence. That's why you can see that this field was flagged. And what I'd like to do is actually zoom in on this area right here. So, it's probably obvious to think that this is most likely the name Danny. However, if you look at Jimmy right above it, it's pretty clear to see that the ends in Danny really could look like an M to the engine. So it's hard to even argue that this may be incorrect. But again, obviously, as a human, we're able to make that leap that this is most likely the name Danny. But just want to kind of show the difference there. So the engine actually, you pick these up in terms of how closely they were matched to Jimmy here. All right. So another really neat thing that we're able to offer now is the ability to go after sort of free-form text. So notice this skewed text handwritten data that's right here in the middle. So again, I can lasso this, and then we can even extract things that are skewed or maybe just in free form, maybe on the columns. So again, that's a really nice option to be able to pick up this data that you see here. All right, let's move down to our delivery note. So this is basically a doc receipt. So again, this was going after the console code number, and we were using this to do some lookups. But again, this is always handwritten. Always struggled to get this, with a high degree of accuracy. But you can see, again, now with this latest release, no issues there. So even something up here in the header, we can click on that, click on these down here. And then one also neat thing is that in the past, we've also been approached to and been asked if we can extract any information from a stamp. In this case, it's obviously only 2 letters, but imagine that being maybe a company stamp or a company name with a maybe address or a date on there. We can now also extract information from a stamp that someone physically or manually stamps on the actual page itself before it's scanned. All right, patient admissions form. So, obviously this is, this type of scenario is very common with any type of onboarding, whether it's for a new employer or for a doctor. But here you can see that we're picking up, again, very standard, fields that are in these constrained boxes. One thing I wanted to point out, and it's, not too much of an issue on this one, but an area that I saw present a lot of challenges historically in the past was when handwritten characters would intersect line systems. And actually, I'll jump back up to the first one because this one had a lot of that happening. So notice there's a lot of different of these handwritten characters that intersect the line systems. And previously, that would really present a challenge because what we're doing is actually dropping out the line system on these pages to try to get a cleaner read on the data. And while we do that, we're actually losing the pixels in the handwritten characters, and that really throws off the results. But in this case, you can obviously see that, even anything that's touching a line system is still getting very, very good results. Great. So let me jump down to my patient admissions form. And then again, just to use our little free form notes box right here, just to click on some of these. So phone number, even email address. Again, we can lasso multiple words. Shoulder pain, Dr. Rose, even, Zyrtec, allergies, any types of medications. So again, everything looks really good on this one. And then, so I like to save the best for last. This is Darren's favorite document.
This is my favorite, John.
He loves when I show this one. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I love this one. I mean, but this is what a lot of our customers have to deal with. If there's been a work order, if there's been an invoice, this one, John, I think we talked about this. This looks like maybe a mechanic was sent out to do a service call and he had to write some of the things on this. So you've got, you got some grease smudges here. you got kind of some messy handwriting and just previously this would have been a non-starter, right?
Exactly. Even just the quality of the document, with the speckling and the shading, that itself presents some challenges. But on top of that, you've got, again, the line system issue that I was mentioning. To be honest, there's words on here that I can't even read myself, so I don't even know what it's saying. So how can we expect, an engine to actually get that right? So I like to just lasso these two paragraphs down here and really just kind of show what's expected. So, it doesn't get it, perfect. However, I think it does a pretty nice job, especially for a document that I would consider an outlier, or a document that's on the extreme use case that you'd probably see out there. But again, it's now a possibility where some of these words we could even use a dictionary or an automatic formatter just to correct them into a word that we believe it to be. So overall, even a document of this poor quality with very poor handwriting, it's still fairly decent in terms of the recognition.
This is my favorite for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. So, I'm always excited to look at other documents. I'm working on a really neat use case right now with some handwritten forms. If you have anything out there that you'd love to see how it does, please get in touch with us. We'd love to run them through the system and kind of show you the actual results. So let's jump back now. And what I'd like to do is jump over to our AI table rule builder, and we can take a look at that. Great. Okay, so here are some new invoices. So the use case, or sort of the scenario that I would like everyone to imagine, is that this is a new vendor. So this is the first time that we're receiving invoices from CDW. So again, we've set up maybe some header fields for other vendors, and you can see that we actually picked up everything from a header level that we would expect, including some vendor matching. We've already populated CDW in our vendor database, so we're pulling back all of the vendor information there without any issues. But again, if we look at our table, at our line items, you can see that we don't have anything here. So what I also want to show is I'm going to jump over to the batch class management screen. For those of you that are not familiar with this, this is the admin side. This is where we actually build out table extraction, index field extraction, etc. So here, really all that I want to show is that I do have a table defined, really just kind of a name and then some columns that are defined, again, with a name and a description. But underneath our table extraction rules, I don't have anything here. So I'm going to jump up to this first invoice, this first CDW, and I'm going to actually call our AI table rule builder and walk you through and kind of expand upon what Walter showed earlier. So the first step is to really just select which table you'd like to use. In this case, we only have one. Obviously, if you had more tables, you could pick whichever table was the one that you wanted to apply. And then I'm just going to drag this green box over my my table area, resize it, and then hit next. So this is where it's now invoking the AI library, and it's going to try to automatically identify, is there a table there? If so, what do the columns look like? And let's go ahead and pull back the results. So that's what you're seeing reflected right here. So it did a pretty decent job. It did split this description onto a second line here for this one piece of text, but everything else it got pretty much spot on. So if that was acceptable and everything looked good, to the operator, to the end user, they could simply just click next. They basically get a summary of what was built, and then they can save this, and that's all that they have to do. So it could be as easy as basically 2 clicks. But what I'm going to do is go back, and then I'm going to hit edit, because I want to walk you through that wizard that Walter talked about, and really just kind of focus in this case on the standard mode. So I've been building tables in Transact for 8 years, and even someone with my level of experience, I've been using this standard mode, and it's been extremely robust and capable. So this is what I would recommend you probably start with and use for the most part. As Darren mentioned, I'm going to walk through this probably a little bit slower than I usually do if I'm just building this on my own. But again, even that being said, within a couple of minutes, you'll see how easy this will be. So again, the idea here is to really offer a no code or maybe in some cases, a low code way for operators to build out this table extraction. And really they do that through just walking through some pretty basic questions, really just giving yes, no type answers. maybe adjusting the green box that you see on my screen here, but that's really it. So what's really nice is the table builder will attempt to answer the questions for the users. So here you can see an example of that. So do we have a header row? Table builder did find that, and it also resized the green box for us and already put it over there. So we don't need to do anything here other than just click next and go on to step 2. This one is looking for some preceding text. So preceding text is really just, think of this as a trigger to understand where a table might possibly start. This is not anything that you need. So again, in this case, table builder didn't find anything that it thought would be a good candidate for that. So it just selected no, and we'll just keep it as no. So that's fine for this one. Trailing text, this is sort of the inverse. So this is really, think of this as like a stop pattern or a stop word, so that when the table builder encounters that, it knows that that's where the end of the table is. In this case, it did find something that it thought would be a good candidate for that. Again, also changed that green box to put it over this area right here in this center middle area. All right, quantity column, again, so far we've really just sort of clicked through next, haven't had to adjust anything. This one did find the quantity column correct. And now you see a few more options. So we can define whether or not it spans multiple rows, whether or not it spans a single row, but might not be present, or does it span a single row and it's always present. So I'm just going to switch this to just to say that it should always be present. All right, description column, again, it did find this. I am going to resize this and just make it a little bit wider for our description right here. And then I'm also going to tell the system to let's span multiple rows on our description column. Unit price, again, found that correctly. We will tell that to be single row always present, and then same for our extended price. All right, last step. This is what we call ignore rows. So sometimes our header row will actually be picked up and included in the line items, and this is simply where you can tell it just to ignore that and just toss it out. So again, we're back at that summary screen after 8 different steps. And what I'm going to do now is click save. Once I do that, I get a message that my batch class rule has been created. So again, from an operator's perspective, there isn't anything they need to really worry about. They just know that they walked through the wizard. They essentially answered some questions, and then they're going to go back to their invoices or whatever types of documents they're processing and finish that job. What I want to do though is first, I want just to call your attention to the vendor number CDW 156789. And then I'm going to close this batch of invoices, and then I'm going to come back to my admin screen and refresh this. I just want to show you what the end result of that process actually looks like. So if we expand our table again, now notice we have a new extraction rule that's automatically been built and then added behind the scenes. And then I also want to show you how we're using the vendor ID to specifically link that rule that was just created to this vendor. So in this case, we just built a very custom or specific rule to CDW. So what's really powerful about this, Walter mentioned it, but it really helps with any types of issues that may occur as you start to build out additional table extraction logic. Again, you can still always build out sort of a generic table extraction logic that will handle a variety of different table layouts and vendors. But again, this is using the table builder and then using our new filter ID feature. All right, and sort of the last step, just to bring everything together, what I'm going to do is I'm going to restart that batch of CDW invoices, because now we have a table rule that's been built through that wizard. Again, we used one invoice to build that rule. And now I'm going to open this up and we can actually take a look at the results. So I'll step through all 4 of these. So here you can see now we do have our table data for the first one, which is expected. This is the one that we use to train the system on. Really just a very basic, one entry line item table. So here on this one, this one's a little bit different. So we have actually 3 line items, but our description field spans multiple lines. Even this last one is only 2 lines. And you can see here that it actually picked up those differences on our description. It's got our unit price, extended price. It got everything perfect, even though it never really saw a table that looked exactly like that.
Yeah, John, I want to reinforce that, because you used a very simple invoice to build the rules. And now what we're seeing is you use that initial simple invoice, built the rules, and now you're processing more complicated invoices from the same vendor, and it's getting it right. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yep, exactly right.
There was a question earlier on in the chat about, what if there's different formats? I mean, obviously we've got to have some similarities, but you can see that these tables are very different and it's all getting collected correctly.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, so
And you didn't process these invoices before, right? You did them live as you were talking people through it. I timed you, John. It was 4 minutes. It was
that
4
one
minutes.
was a little bit on the slower side, so I'll have to work on that as I demonstrate this. But
John, you're quite good at this. But even explaining and going slowly and making sure everybody stayed with you, it took you 4 minutes, and you've now processed 4 invoices, right? With that rule set you created. Okay, really nice.
Right. Excellent. So Darren, I'm really, really happy to show everyone this, and I'll stop sharing and then turn it back to you.
Excellent. All right, John, fantastic. Great job. Really appreciate that. Ladies and gentlemen, there have been some great questions coming in. I think Walter has been, as John was kind of going through the steps, showing you how everything works, Walter was like addressing some of the questions. We do have a few minutes left before the top of the hour. Please chat your questions into the Q&A tab. I've got a couple here that we can handle. Walter, I think there was another one like this, but for handwriting recognition, is this only available as a cloud service? So Walter, do you want to handle this?
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the Handwriting Recognition Plus, it's being provided in Cloud Hyper Extender service. That's a premium offering, and that is indeed a cloud service. That cloud service, though, can work with your Transact on-prem or your Transact cloud instance.
Got it. Perfect. Okay. I think I can handle this one. Here's an easy one. Yeah, go ahead. I'm seeing some questions come in, so go ahead and chat them in. Use the Q&A function. We can take some questions. We want to test out Handwriting Recognition Plus. How do we request a demo? We have a team that is an expert team based in our Singapore office that can get you set up. It's a very simple setup and configuration, and you can be up and running very, very quickly. So how do you request a demo? Get in touch with either your partner manager or your Ephesoft sales rep, and we will get that squared away for you. Okay, this one, Walter, this one says, for AI Table Rule Builder, do we have to be on the latest release?
For the AI Table Rule Builder, you do have to be on at least 2020.1.05, which was released in July.
Okay, so that's yes. Yes, you do.
Hey, Darren, it looks like someone just, sorry about that. Looks like someone just asked in the chat, can an admin user edit the tables that users create in the validation in the batch class management screen?
Yeah, go for it, John.
Yeah, the answer is yes. So that's a really nice, that's a great question, by the way. So the rule that you saw me just create, again, a user stepped through that. As an admin, I can go in, I can delete that rule, I can edit it, I can further build it out. I also don't need to use that filter ID. So the vendor ID that I showed you that that maps it one-to-one to the vendor, you don't have to use that. So you can also use this as more of a generic rule builder as well. But so kind of a long answer, but yes, the admin can edit any of those rules that are created.
What's really nice about that is you can use the AI Table Rule Builder to kind of lay out the framework of all the objects in the legacy table extraction rule builder, because that in general was on the slower side. And then you can use the more advanced functions in the legacy table rule builder, to build out multi-page table rules, or to extract maybe another particular portion that might have been extracted in your description line item row, right? So there's certainly going to be more control and power in the legacy system. And so we enable you to kind of use a combination of both so that you can accomplish what you need to.
Yeah, Walter, I think that's a good point. None of the full-featured hands-on, manual rule creation has been removed. That's still completely available. It looks like we've got some additional questions from some consultants, so you can continue to do that work the way you like. But as John showed you, even somebody with John's skill level, you can shortcut and more quickly create some regular expression type rules using the AI table rule builder. And since it's included in the cost of Transact, there's no additional fee. I think it really does make sense for you to have a look at it and see if it works for you. John and Walter, couple more technical questions. You guys seeing those? You want to take one of those?
Sure, yeah. So someone asked, for a customer with more than 4,000 suppliers, how would you suggest working on batch cost development to make table extraction work? So 4,000 plus suppliers is a lot. It really depends, but kind of the way that we approach something like that is the 80-20 rule. So, the first thing that we would do right away is just try to understand out of those suppliers, how many suppliers make up 80% of the volume, and really try to focus on that number to really just get the most kind of bang for your buck, if you will. With 4,000 plus, it's still going to be quite a few. So it really depends on how much variation you're seeing across that. But again, the 80-20 rule is the starting place that we would take. We have another question. Can you create specific document level field rules for a specific supplier in addition to these table rules? So I think what they're asking here is, can we basically use the filter ID to link like an index field to a specific vendor as well? So that's a great question. That came up from another a customer a couple of weeks ago that I was showing this to, and I think it's a great idea. I've already brought it to product's attention, so that's something that's on our radar. But currently, no. But we do hope to add that feature in the future.
Perfect. Okay. It looks like we have another couple minutes here. We've got a couple questions coming in. Walter, I wanted to pull this one up though. Language support. So can you handle that? Which languages are supported for handwriting extraction?
So for handwriting extraction, we are supporting the languages that are currently listed for our document processing that's currently in the product. I believe there are 6 or 7 of those. Because we're using Google Cloud Vision on the back end, Google itself actually supports over 200 languages. You'll notice that if you try out Google Cloud Hyperextender, there is an auto option. So when you select the auto option, it's going to return results from any number of those 200 plus languages that Google supports. But from an official, certified, and support perspective, we're gonna start out with supporting the languages that we have listed for the main Transact product.
Perfect. Okay. Got it. Unfortunately, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like we are just about at time here. So I did want to thank each of our guest speakers, John and Walter. Thank you both for being here. Great presentation, great content here. Really helped us understand all of this. So thanks, guys. Really appreciate that.
Thank you, Darren.
Thanks, guys.
And I wanted to leave the audience with a little bit of a challenge. I think hearing from product management, the philosophy and the thinking behind how we put something together, and then seeing John demonstrate it, I think that's great on some of these sample documents. I'll tell you what's even better is letting us show you this functionality on your documents. So I'm going to challenge the audience today. We have tons of good questions. I apologize if we didn't get to your question. We'll make sure that we follow up with you. We're about out of time, but I want to challenge you to come out to our website and request a demonstration. We have an excellent team that will work with you on your specific use case, get your documents, bring them into our system, and show you the kind of accuracy that you would be getting if you decide to go down this path. So definitely come check us out, ephesoft.com. You can see some information on the screen. On behalf of the whole Ephesoft team, Mr. Walter Lee, Mr. John Endell, thank you so much for being here today. I want to say thank you for your time. Have a great day. We look forward to talking with you in the future. Thanks, everyone. Take care.